So all 9 episodes of Marvel's newest show, WandaVision, are now on Disney+. Now that the season is done, here are my thoughts. The start of this review will be spoiler-free, but at one point I'll give a warning for spoilers if you haven't seen the show yet. WandaVision takes place only a few weeks after the events of Avengers Endgame, and it's about Wanda Maximoff and Vision, who are living an idyllic suburban life in the town of Westview, New Jersey, trying to conceal their true natures. As they begin to enter new decades and encounter television tropes, the couple suspects that things are not as they seem. WandaVision is without a doubt one of the most creative and original things to ever come out of the Marvel Cinematic Universe. One thing that the MCU is often criticized for is the fact that it's too predictable, and they have a formula that they use for many of their films, but WandaVision is so unique and so different from anything I've ever seen. I mean, the start of the show was literally just a 50s and 60s sitcom with two of the Avengers. I think this was a really risky idea for Marvel, but they tried it and they really pulled it off. I love WandaVision because it's fun, interesting, diverse, and even kind of emotional, especially in the final few episodes. There were a lot of people who stopped watching at the beginning of the season because it wasn't like anything what the MCU had done in the past. There was no action or fight scenes, and honestly, I kind of feel bad for those people because they missed out on a really good TV show. WandaVision is such an interesting and enthralling show. It had me coming back for the next episode every Friday and making my own theories for what would happen next. I don't remember the last time a show made me come back week after week to see what happens and to see the answers to all of the questions we have. I love the sitcom vibe this show has, and Marvel completely nailed it. Each episode that was centered around a different TV decade perfectly portrayed the sitcoms of those eras so well. Also, the performances were great. Elizabeth Olsen and Paul Bettany's performances as Wanda and Vision are fantastic. Both of them did such great jobs at making their characters some of my favorites in the MCU, and I really liked the romance between them. I also thought that Teyonah Parris, the child actors, and Catherine Hahn performed really well. Personally, I do think this is one of the best things to come out of the MCU. It's just such an interesting story and unique addition to the Marvel Cinematic Universe, and I just can't wait to see how the story kind of continues in future MCU movies like Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness. Okay, so that's it for my spoiler-free review. Now I'm going to get into spoilers, so if you haven't seen WandaVision yet, definitely go check it out now and then come back. Alright, spoilers in 3, 2, 1. Now I'm just going to go through every episode and give my thoughts on them, and then at the end I'll rank all of them. I'm going to pair episode 1 and 2 together, titled Film Before a Live Studio Audience and Don't Touch That Dial, because they were very similar. They both went for that 50s and 60s sitcom aesthetic, and like I said, I think they absolutely nailed it. These two episodes were both a lot of fun, with a few odd inconsistencies throughout, which I really loved when I first saw it, and I still love it now. And at this point, we pretty much knew as much as the characters knew about what was going on. We were on the same page as Wanda and Vision, which I really liked. These episodes were just a lot of fun with a few weird moments, like with Mr. Hart choking on the food in episode 1 and the beekeeper in episode 2. But yeah, overall the first 2 episodes were really interesting and kept me intrigued to see what was coming next. I slightly prefer episode 1, though I liked both of them a lot. Episode 3, titled Now in Color, was when things started to get a little bit more interesting. Throughout the episode, we saw some really odd things going on, like characters glitching, like we saw Herb doing, which we later find out was caused by Agatha, and we also heard the doctor talking about how hard it was to escape, which helped reveal a lot of things for us. The real plot of this episode, though, was about Billy and Tommy being born, which I thought was pretty interesting, and there's also everything with Monica, or as she was called in the Hex, Geraldine. This episode was definitely really interesting, and I liked it a lot. Not quite as much as episode 1, but it was still very good. Episode 4, titled We Interrupt This Program, was completely different from the first 3 episodes, but it was still a really good, interesting, and compelling episode. Episode 4 gave us more background information, more context, not too much, but just enough so we would know what was going on. I liked how it took characters from a lot of different MCU movies and put them in one spot, with the same questions as us, trying to find the answers of what was going on in Westview, just like the viewers. I also really liked that opening with Monica Rambeau. This was just a really fascinating and great episode that felt more like the MCU than the sitcoms of the first 3 episodes. Episode 5, titled On a Very Special Occasion, was really good. Without a doubt, it's one of my favorites, maybe even my favorite episode overall. This was the one that really introduced us to Billy and Tommy, at least when they were old enough to talk, and I really liked the part where Vision kind of woke up one of Westview's residents, which led to the fight between Wanda and Vision, which is one of the scenes that really stood out to me, not just in this episode, but in the whole show. Paul Bettany's performance in that scene was so good, and it was an incredible scene overall, and of course we have the cliffhanger ending ending, where, as we thought at the time, Pietro appeared and was being played by Evan Peters, which sparked hundreds of theories all over the internet. This episode was just really great. Episode 6, the all-new Halloween Spooktacular, was one of them that people didn't like that much, but I actually really liked it. They took a lot of time to advertise this episode, and it wasn't like my favorite episode or anything, but I still really enjoyed it. We get to see Billy and Tommy's powers for the first time, we get to meet fake Pietro. I thought it was really interesting to watch what was going on with Vision, especially how we saw all the people frozen in time. And then when Vision tried to get out of the hex, that was a great scene which led to Wanda expanding the hex. One of my only problems with this episode is that it kind of ended abruptly, but overall it was just a great episode. Episode 7, titled Breaking the Fourth Wall, was not great. Definitely one of the worst episodes so far. It was just really boring and uneventful. I didn't really have much to say about it, but it was the episode with the Agatha Harkness reveal, which I feel like a lot of people expected, but I think it was executed very well, especially with the Agatha All Along song, which is great, and I still haven't gotten it out of my head. So the song was great, but the rest was just okay. Episode 8, Previously On, was a really good and interesting episode. It told us a lot of new things about Wanda and showed us a lot of things about her, like how and why she created the Hex. And this episode has some really emotional scenes and explained to us why the show is a sitcom. That was really important to Wanda's life. And then at the end, Wanda finally becomes a Scarlet Witch. And we had the mid-credit scene with White Vision, which really helped to get me excited for the final episode. And then, of course, we have the final episode, titled The Series Finale, which only came out 2 days ago, and I know a lot of people were really disappointed by it, but I actually really liked it. Maybe this episode felt a bit rushed, but it was still really good overall. I love seeing Wanda really becoming the Scarlet Witch and getting her new suit, which was really cool. I thought the ending was great and really emotional, and I know that some people didn't like that Vision died again because we already saw that in Infinity War, but I think Marvel did a good job of this, and the goodbye didn't feel forced. They didn't just kill Vision again, it felt deserved. I thought this episode was really good, and it was definitely one of my favorites. Okay, so now for my ranking of all the episodes. At number 9, I have Episode 2, titled Don't Touch That Dial. At number 8, Episode 3, titled Now in Color. At number 7, I have Episode 7, Breaking the Fourth Wall. My number 6 is Episode 4, titled We Interrupt This Program. Number 5 is Episode 1, Film Before a Live Studio Audience. Number 4 is Episode 8, titled Previously On. Number 3 is Episode 6, The All-New Halloween Spooktacular. Number 2 is a series finale, Episode 9. And my number 1 is Episode 5, On a Very Special Occasion. So that's my ranking of all the WandaVision episodes. I love this show so much, and it was definitely one of my favorite shows of all time, and one of my favorite things to ever come out of the MCU. Definitely top 10, maybe even top 5. It was just so good and interesting and fun and different, and I just really, really love it. WandaVision is really about how Wanda dealt with her grief, which is fascinating, and I'm so happy Marvel took a big risk and made this show, because like I said earlier, I definitely think it paid off. This show is truly fantastic, and it gets me really excited for the other upcoming MCU projects, like Falcon and the Winter Soldier, which is coming out in less than 2 weeks now. WandaVision was great, and my overall rating for it is a 9 out of 10.